going to go live again today. I didn't think I was going to go live twice. I did have a question I wanted to ask people. So I'm going to set up a quick poll. Let me set this up and then we'll get started. But it's good. It'll be good to see. I think I'll see be seeing some of you guys for a second time today. I set up a poll in the chat though. Yeah, and so when you join the stream, you should see that poll. If you guys want to help by answering, feel free to do that. I'm trying to get it in the right place on the screen. I don't know where to put it. But it's somewhere. So I wanted to talk briefly about the threat of violence that's happening in our society today. And this is all something that would be very strange, perhaps odd, perhaps unusual. Most times in history, when we were flipping on the news, when we were leaving the carport, we were leaving the bus station, we're going to work for the first time that day, it would be both patently clear and obvious that we should turn our news on and we should see a president and a world who we believe and we trust is honestly standing up with us for peace. We should not turn our televisions on and believe that we're going to have a world that is thrust into violence. Something that really drives home the concept of war for people is seeing the long-term impact of wars. Long-term impacts of wars sort of paint the picture. They add the color, the context, the hues. They add what we see as perhaps, I think, the most drastic effects of military spending, of states and societies run amok. We see the result of either outright hatred, explicit anger. We see the effects of violence. We sometimes see the sharper edges of optimism and hope. Optimism and hope. And so when we go to the ballot box for the first time, when we vote, when we decide on our society being the best society there is, the best thing there is, one of the considerations is that our hope, our optimism, our dramatically our dreams for a better future, we give that to someone with the expectation that they're going to be responsible in a tangible way. In the United States, this often means we expect lawmakers to support social safety nets, to support benefits for people who need a leg up. We expect Democratic and Republican lawmakers to work together on some things. Joe Rogan isn't on the right. I don't know if I agree with that. I'll explain that in a second, though. I'm sorry if you lost your hat. Yeah, and so as we dramatically look at the risk and threats of global violence in the world today, we have expected that leaders like Donald Trump and leaders in the Republican Party and leaders in the Democratic Party would be strong enough, hardworking enough, intrepid enough. They would be bold enough to tell us, that we should see ourselves as a free people within a democracy. We should see ourselves as people capable not just of peace, but of prosperity. People capable of being so peaceful that we create peace for others as well. We should support people in society that bring that message. People like Joe Rogan, people like Charlie Kirk. I can imagine a world where the Joe Rogan Experience and Turning Point USA insisted with people on focusing on, I don't know why Stream Elements is here. Sorry. Let me get this out. Insisted that we create a party system, a two-party system, a system of cosmopolitan global identities where we come together, and we come together not for, truthfully, for myself, truthfully, not for the reason of bettering ourselves today, not for trading the future peace for the present peace, but really for thinking about peace in general as a concept. That's what I would challenge you to do, to think, to say that when we are looking at each other, when we are examining each other in the world we live in, maybe you're examining the like button. Maybe you're examining subscribing to the channel or not. I'm just kidding. The less important point. The more important point is when we examine the outlay of the future that we have for ourselves, when we imagine that the world isn't capable of producing better, or that we ourselves are unwilling to work harder to make that future a realization, we are selling our future for something else. And that's why I'm going live twice today, guys. You may not know me, you may not care. You may play guitar. You may play guitar, and you may play guitar well. You may not care about floating trems and bridges that really have no mechanical purpose on the face of this earth. We've got Plant Man Cheesehead doesn't like Donald Trump. I don't like Donald Trump either. Donald Trump spent a lot of time with Jeff Epstein, and we don't know what that means, but we know Donald Trump doesn't appear to be a competent leader for the office of the president. And so now we're at a point where it's no longer just this entire category and concept of peace, this category of what a society is like that goes out and farms optimism. Instead of farming the noobs, you go out and you farm optimism, you farm hope, you farm a general spirit of goodwill, you farm a general sense of human dignity. You farm a sense that, look, and this is maybe Joe Rogan-esque, but what I'm spending my time on today and what my brain thinks about is maybe best for me, and maybe it isn't, but I don't get to go out and use this as an excuse to make someone else's life worse, less pleasurable, less moral, less full of optimism and hope, less full of all the good things that a society has to offer. And so here we are. So here we are in 2026. I did not think I would turn on my television and see the United States threatening Greenland, threatening Colombia, threatening Venezuela with even more action. Trump seemingly on television today promising to commit violence in Iran. Do you guys believe in the death penalty? Hey, what's going on, lifetime listener? How do you work with someone who's trying to burn the house down? Yeah, how do you work with someone who's trying to burn the house down? You have to be honest and direct, and you have to find the right things to say. I'll give you an example, Noah. You guys pay attention to Noah's comments. I'm going to address it here. So Iran is set to execute someone, and it's been all of Donald Trump's right-wing smut newspapers. And this is wild because there are people all around the world, there are human rights watchdog groups that look at the death penalty in Iran, and they've been following this so closely. They've been following it closely for decades. And so why does it matter that Donald Trump's administration suddenly, the same administration who sends ICE out on the streets in droves, cares about the death penalty in Iran? Well, it does matter when you know about what Iran is actually like. Iran committed a string of executions in 2022 as a response to protests. Really dark stuff, guys, but now you know about it. Now you know, and that knowledge is power. And so this is about justice. And so Iran didn't just execute people in 2022, but based on Sharia law, Iran has executed people many other times. It's something that Republicans and Democrats don't have to disagree about because there's nothing to disagree about. It's a state of affairs. Do you know what a state of affairs is? It's just facts in the world. It's just things that happen. And if Trump cancels the midterm elections, we will see a grave injustice that happens like this. We'll see something that's never happened before. And so in Iran, the death penalty, lifetime listener might like this. The death penalty in Iran is done for two reasons. One is familial side. So when you commit murder, the victims of that person's family have a say in the punishment. Sometimes they're allowed to forgive the person. Usually there's an execution. And then there's also capital crimes such as smuggling and all kinds of other things, crimes against women, things like this. And so Iran has a very sporadic history. While it's executed a lot of people, the undercurrent has been it goes in waves and trends, whether or not the courts in Iran appear to be endorsing a more violent form of Sharia law or not. Now, does Donald Trump's right-wing media, do they care about that? If we see someone like Benny Johnson or the New York Post or anyone talking about what has happened in the last 12 months or 24 months in Iran, if we are as curious people, we ourselves are thinking about the victims, and we're also not thinking about the victims, but the circumstances and the tools that the society has had to deal with those circumstances. In Iran, it's been the death penalty, and the UN watchdog groups will not let you forget that. They'll not let you forget that. And so while people like Benny Johnson and writers at the New York Post and these America First networks only want to share the most violent and perhaps the most narrowing messages, they'll leave off their context. They won't share with you the circumstances they're writing about. People all around the world have been watching Iran and saying, you kill people for no reason. Sometimes you take them out back and you hang them and shoot them in the head. There's these other times where the violence and the competition that you invite in your society, the thing that you think gives people hope or confidence or trust in your justice system, there's other cases where it takes forever. And so what are we seeing now? Are we seeing an appropriation of violence? In 2022, Iran executed a man because they said he took money to attack security forces. They said he was basically took on a hit job, a contracting job. And this was apparently to stoke nationalistic sentiment, to paint protesters as people as anti-government or foreign operatives, to show that it is the case that Iran has to be in control of Iran's future. Now, the funny part is you might think, well, this is politics as usual. This is why we talk about the application of violence and of force. I'm not a white supremacist. I actually have very different politics than Charlie Kirk, Greg. No offense. Yeah, cool it and shut up, everybody. I'll shut up myself. I'll just meditate for a second here. And so this is what Iran did, folks. Iran said that, well, we can arrest a protester and we're going to pay people more money every month, and we can arrest a protester and they're going to get the worst form of what's already a violent, oppressive system in Iran. And this is the politics of the day. Does this sound familiar to you? We're going to take this as far as we can because we've said we've done this in the past. The leaders in Iran love Iran so much that they can execute and kill an innocent person because they care about Iranians so much. Meanwhile, watchdog groups, people who say things like double tap your screen, maybe like the stream. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, we're talking about the death penalty. This is a very serious issue. And it shouldn't be competition. This should be about information and knowing how to make up your mind about this, whether you support or oppose the death penalty and oppose unjust systems of law. And so Donald Trump is talking about launching more strikes, killing people in Iran. Donald Trump hasn't clarified what it means that America supports democracies. He said we do this with warships, with illegal operations around the world. Now, why this is problematic is because people's lives are at stake, and the Iranian government should have a direct and non-obfuscated link to their own strategy, their own position and understanding of themselves in the world as a group, as a individual, as someone who is as a evangelical Muslim sort of group or organization. They should have concrete reasons to oppose the death penalty. Just like in the United States or in Canada or anywhere else, we should have reasons to oppose the death penalty. when you have a Circle K on every corner, when you have a Starbucks on every corner, and whether or not you do or don't, you can oppose corporal punishment, you can oppose unjust or undue or unfair or unreasonable types of punishment. And so here we are. Here we actually are, folks. It's never good enough for these Iranians, I'll tell you what, and they accept that. It's never good enough for this Trump administration. You don't just need Fox News. He needs perhaps thousands, millions of tweets, of Truth Social posts, of people everywhere sharing how violent this Iranian regime is without context. And you think you are going to use this information to try and oppress people? I don't believe so. I don't think so. Greenland is a very strategic and interesting case. Greenland is a case study in preventing horrific acts of war and violence, apparently. We need this geography. We prevent more skirmishes. We prevent security dilemmas by having friends that we can trust in this European Union. And for you, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need to see in Greenland? Do you need resources? Do you need shipping routes? I don't see any of that stuff in my day-to-day personally, which means I'm willing to be patient. I'm willing to understand things. I'm willing to take some time before I jump in the deep end of the pool. For me personally, one of the things I'll always focus on, one of the things I'll always be able to focus on is that peace can find a way when we have open routes of communication, when we have ways to speak to each other. Greenland and Iran should not be a pressure valve for the United States or the world. Large countries like Russia, like China, like the United States should not use smaller, weaker states, smaller, weaker security alliances. We should not use other people's politics, our time on stage, to tell people if you misunderstand something, we're going to be able to get some violence across and out. I don't know what's difficult for people to understand about that. Greenland is a game theory choice. Greenland isn't a place Donald Trump wants to visit. It's not a place he wants to build a golf course. Greenland is a place that can potentially reduce the long-term cost of the United States potentially going to war. It's a place full of potentials and a different type of potentials. As for me and for Joe Rogan and Charlie Kirk, I think we need more conversations like this. We should oppose violence. Joe Rogan is a professional fight commentator. He's someone who does not think that the Christian message says anything about violence, and he's willing to have guests on. He's willing to have guests on to say that, well, you don't actually make up your mind or decide because, you went to church once. You're allowed to believe what you believe, how you believe it, and how you want to believe it. Charlie Kirk seemed to believe in the some just war hypothesis. Charlie Kirk seemed to, with a very large audience, as a political speaker, as a social participant, what Charlie Kirk seemed to do is find opposition with lots of people. That isn't how we do this in America. In the United States, we find reasons to unify. We find correct information. We treat ourselves not just like lawyers, but also like CEOs. We treat ourselves this way so we don't have to treat others that way. Greenland is not a token. It's not a prize for the United States. Colombia is not a prize for the United States. The stated policy objectives are not prizes for the United States. Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro's bounty, his capture, is not a prize for the United States. A prize for the United States is ending the death penalty in Iran. A prize for the United States is allowing transparency for international organizations to allow the truth to be heard. There's never been a meaningful change that takes place overnight. You think a country that executed 1,000 people in 2024 or 2023, you think a small country that executed 1,000 people, sort of small country, that executed 1,000 people is overnight going to wake up, they're going to get dressed with their baklavas. They're going to go protest, and this is going to change overnight. You have another thing coming. Donald Trump, the New York Post, I'm telling you, your favorite right-wing commentator, they're going to lie to you. Joe Rogan is going to make an overnight celebrity, folks. An overnight celebrity. out of somebody that you don't even know, that doesn't know what they're talking about, that won't share the correct context. Do you know what a brute fact is? Chris Molina, it's good to see you. Do you know what a brute fact is? I'll tell you what a brute fact is. A brute fact is that sometimes Iran executes people in as little as 7 days after a conviction. I'll tell you what a brute fact is the Iranian people have tolerated over 1,000 people a year being executed. I'm sure not all Iranians agree with that, but if you think an Israeli or U.S. military operation can change that or is justified outside of that, you're wrong. You're actually dead wrong. You don't know what you are talking about. I'll debate you on this. Joe Bob says, I'm gaslighting. Joe Bob, if you were here earlier, you would have seen what people were saying to me. I'm not telling you I'm a victim, but I don't think I'm gaslighting anyone. I'm only talking to you about peace. I'm talking to you about compassion. I'm talking to you about politics and the way the world actually is. I'm talking to you about the types of judgments people make because they have to. When, how, where, why, what? The journalism questions, Joe. I'm not trying to gaslight anyone. If you're offended, please let me know. But I felt that was oppositional. Thank you, though. Trump isn't a saint. At least he doesn't act like it. I'll tell you what, Donald Trump, I think, is a liar. He has not been honest to you once. He would rather have you look at his psychology readout, his 16 personalities, his personality test that he did online. He wants you to see people like Carolyn Levitt, like JD Vance talking to you, telling you everything's going to be okay as Americans. As Americans, what do we do that matters most to us? I'll tell you what we do. We oppose the death penalty. It's been that way. It's been that way that you've always had. We have states in the United States, entire regions of our country that oppose the death penalty. Do you know what Iran would understand? We oppose the death penalty, and you will get nothing while you're executing citizens by the bucket, while you're using executions as a punishment for political dissent. You will have nothing. You will never win. You will watch your country and your government become weaker and weaker and more outsited. This is the one conversation we can talk about. If you want to truly compete, we will have to truly compete on fair terms about this issue. Welcome to the United States, folks. I would have loved to have heard Hillary Clinton. I would have loved to have heard Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State trying to negotiate a settlement for nuclear peace, trying to negotiate an energy settlement, trying to negotiate about resources, doing the same in places like Ethiopia, doing the same of places that lose the Nile River up north. I would have loved to hear that. I would have loved to hear about how we can work with leaders in Latin America to produce a better world for all of us. You guys believe in George Bush? I believe George Bush wanted to go to war. I believe George Bush wanted to go to war, and he set up a team to lie to the American people to go to war. Do you know what we get out of violence? We get nothing out of violence. That's my belief. There's an entire theory called the democratic peace theory that democracies don't generally go to war with one another. Do you know what happened? Pakistan stopped being a democracy, if you guys knew that. In Pakistan, suddenly they start to go to war. Right after this, there's a short war skirmish with India. It involves jets. It involves the military being mobilized. Wow, pretty crazy stuff, guys. Donald Trump isn't talking about military exercises or 7-day conflicts. He's talking about a long-term directional shift in U.S. policy, which involves violence. So how about that? How about, does Greenland have the death penalty? No, they don't. Does Iran? Yes, they do. What does Iran execute you for? Well, they execute you for lots of stuff, and it's not always the same. Sometimes you're on death row for 5 years. Sometimes it's 7 days. Sometimes it's because you showed up to the wrong place at the wrong time. We should oppose injustice in Iran. We should oppose injustice without exerting the U.S. will on this other place. You guys cannot believe Trump, please. I'm telling you, you guys can think about this a little bit more. If you guys actually want to talk about politics, Iran's in a crowded place in the world, right? Iran gets a couple pipelines out. Every couple of years, they'll get a few big deals. They'll maybe upgrade refineries. They'll upgrade a couple things. They'll get a couple new manufacturing things in. Their universities will produce another 1,000 PhDs, really smart people, great computer scientists, historians, biologists. Iran has to do a lot with not that much. As a country, irrespective of their repressive and violent nature as a regime, Iran has their own struggles that the Iranian people aren't just going to magically lose. John Kiriakou, for some people that if you're in the audience and you're ex-military or you're interested in that stuff, John is a former spy chief. He's a former master spy. And this is what John said. He said that, the old Iranian regime was also repressive. It was not this sunny side liberalism like you all think. So I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to believe. I know one thing I believe. I oppose violence. I only support a world where we can come together and discuss peaceful solutions to things. As for Joe Biden, I believe both Barack Obama and Joe Biden wanted peace with Iran, and they wanted peace with Russia. They wanted peace with China. I don't believe there is any fact that was too profound for the United States to address directly and with the American people. I don't believe there is any fact that we're too weak or too unhinged to actually know the truth of. How's that for scary? Maybe Donald Trump is being the big bad scary guy because he doesn't believe we can handle the truth. Did you want the truth? You can't handle the truth. This kind of thing. As a secular atheist in the United States, as a former Catholic, I just want to see people with human dignity. Hey, cheers to you, Europe. Cheers to Belgium. I don't know that much about Belgium. I know you guys make a bunch of small arms, little SKSs and stuff, I think, if I recall correctly. But yeah, healthcare is also a huge issue. Healthcare is a massive issue. I got into a little debate about that. And, that's another issue that we fight about. Do you want to see ironic? There's people dying in Iran because of the death penalty. There's people dying in the United States because of healthcare. And we bicker and fight. We tell our politicians, this is how you lead me, is you tell me to change my mind about things. Joe Rogan was a liberal. I thought he was more libertarian leaning a little bit. I thought he cared about Bernie Sanders a bunch. I remember that a little bit. But I also remember him platforming people like Alex Jones, Alex Jones was funny and the InfoWars guys, for any of the Pepe troll people and stuff, whatever. If you guys are in chat, folks are in chat. The other thing Joe Rogan did was Joe Rogan platformed people like Alex Jones who actually believed in either abolishing the government or a fascist government. He thought the cure to the deep state was either this far right-wing control or we have to do away with it altogether. And so it's very strange to say, the same person that would have voted for Barack Obama maybe is also a guy that would probably vote for Ron Paul or consider it. Would also maybe have voted for Trump or support Trump, Trumpers, whatever Trumper is. That's a crazy thing. Yeah. Gorgon Black, good to see you. So this is wild. Iran does also hold people on death row for crimes they committed when they were not adults. And so that's another crazy thing. In the United States, you can be tried as an adult and eligible for the death penalty as well for crimes you committed when you were not 18. I believe that's true almost everywhere. But like I said, there's entire countries in the world, there's entire states in the United States that oppose the death penalty that just don't have it. The death penalty is an antiquated system. We should stand up to Iran for executions, for illegal arrests. We should demand justice. We should demand to know who those people are, and we should demand that this is an issue that is international and it isn't something that goes away. In the United States, we have our own problems. This forces us to eat our own dog food. The United States probably has executed innocent people. So for all the people who believe that violence or force is justified, do you guys know what a justification is? Do you know what a justified belief is? I don't believe you can have a justified belief about force and violence. That's all I'm saying. Hey, what's up, Christ is King? You're 62. Cool. All right, guys, I'm going to end the stream. I have some stuff to do. I might be on later tonight. I wanted to talk more about Greenland. If you guys can't tell, I'm kind of tired. If anyone wants to support the channel, you can go to my page. You can subscribe, hit the bell, that kind of stuff. We'll do more live streams. I'll talk to you guys a bit more. Usually I do, but I just wanted to get through some stuff I had going on in my head there. Try to think about it more. So I appreciate you all. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the subscription. I'll do a little EDM techno dance for a subscription. I'll be your dancing monkey or something. Yeah, and I also just set up a donation link. I'm going to try not to grift too hard, but if anyone wants to support me, I have a job that starts, I don't get paid until maybe March. So if anyone wants to send a tip or something, I appreciate that. In the meantime, thank you so much. We're going to keep everything focused on you guys, on the stories you guys want to hear. Not just that, but we're really going to focus on trying to develop sort of a better mindset about politics, and really letting that form itself out. We're not going to be this sort of sick form of goal-driven person that ignores what the world is like, right? I don't want to see you guys, and you guys hold me accountable. I shouldn't be making propaganda. I should not be telling you guys, I shouldn't be telling you guys what to think about Iran because I don't like the death penalty. Even if I know the death penalty is wrong, even if I know that Iran executes people unjustly, let's not make a habit of that. Let's make a habit of being considered and allowing our conversation to inform where we go, inform the journey that we have together. Not just the journey, but inform the impact we think we can have, and inform the way we oppose tyrannical leaders who are forcing you to talk down to yourself, like Donald Trump, guys. Like Donald Trump. We can debate about it. We can talk about it, everyone. But yeah, thank you so much again. Like, subscribe, hit the bell if you guys like live streams, if you guys like shorts in your feed. And yeah, if anyone wants to send a short tip or donation, I also really understand how it is out there. So no pressure, and I appreciate everyone. Thank you guys so much. Take care.